Welcome to a very wet Lanzarote airport, where today I'm taking a quick 40-minute flight over to Tenerife with Canary Fly. It's a pretty simple local domestic route within the Canary Islands, but I happened to be flying whilst a massive storm was hitting the islands, and no exaggeration, this was easily the most turbulent flight I've ever been on, and it was the first time I've ever felt motion sickness on a plane. So get ready for that, some very striking and stormy scenery from these beautiful volcanic islands, and lastly, right at the end, some chaos with go-arounds and diversions to different airports. But first, we start off at the domestic terminal of Lanzarote, a very small terminal just used for these inter-island flights from Canary Fly and the other big Canary Island airline, Binter. The waiting area is actually very spacious and filled with lots of volcanic sand, which, for those who haven't heard of this place, is because Lanzarote is basically just a volcanic desert island that looks like this. The terminal is right up against the apron, and they like to leave the doors open so it gets very loud, but it also means you get a fantastic view of all the traffic, and most of the flights here are operated by this airline here, Binter, the flag carrier of the Canary Islands. Canary Fly, meanwhile, is really just a tiny airline that operates in their shadow, with just 5 aircraft, all ATR 72s, serving 8 destinations within these islands. But importantly, they have a code-share agreement with Air Europa, and since I had booked onward flights with Air Europa to Amsterdam via Madrid, I was able to add this ticket onto the itinerary for only about £30, which felt like a bargain. Now here's our plane arriving, a 15.5-year-old ATR 72-500, which arrived a bit late due to the bad weather. The turnaround was pretty rapid though, as is often the case with these small regional airlines, and boarding started quickly. But before that, here are the stats and route map for today's flight. Only 42 minutes, or 272 kilometers long, but as you'll see in a bit, very bumpy. The cabin is a typical 2-2 layout with 68 seats in total, and the seats are what you'll find on pretty much every ATR type aircraft, which is to say, small and very cramped. Legroom for a short person like me though is fine. I was pleasantly surprised to see the seats actually recline as well, though they have definitely seen better days. There's also a menu with surprisingly very affordable snacks and drinks, and €1.20 must be the cheapest coffee I've ever seen on a plane. As it turned out though, there wouldn't actually be any service today during this flight, as the crew spent it all buckled into their jump seats due to the turbulence. So that's it for the cabin. Now coming up is the taxi and a very scenic takeoff out of Lanzarote.
The voyage for inconvenience and may has been caused by the delay in the departure of the flight. Our flight will take approximately 50 minutes for a takeoff. Thank you very much for your attention and we hope to enjoy the flight.
Debe permanecer abrochado siempre que la señal luminosa de cinturones esté encendida. Señales luminosas y carteles a bordo durante todo el vuelo. Por favor.
Tripulación de cabina entrando en pista para el despegue. Buen vuelo.
As we entered the clouds, I was surprised to actually see ice building up on the leading edge of the wing, and you can see at this point the weather is definitely best described as inclement. Seeing this instantly made me recall one of the many air crash investigation episodes I've seen about American Eagle Flight 4184, where the de-icing mechanism didn't work properly and ultimately led to the crash of an ATR 72. And this is what the de-icer actually looks like in practice. In order to de-ice, this whole black area actually inflates and detracts to knock ice off the wing, which I actually found pretty surprising when I learned about it, since I assumed it was just hard metal fixed in place, so pretty cool if you ask me. Anyway, I then remembered at the end of that episode, they said after this crash they fixed all other ATRs so that this sort of thing couldn't happen again, so that stopped me from worrying anymore. Also, at this point it was starting to get pretty turbulent. So turbulent, in fact, I decided to film this dramatic reenactment so my viewers could experience how I was feeling. Here you can really see the plane being thrown about by the turbulence, and my iPhone has pretty good stabilization and I had it fixed against the window, but even still you can see the plane is rocking all over the place. And since the ATR is a relatively small plane, it's much more noticeable. I don't really get scared by turbulence. If I did, I probably wouldn't be making these YouTube videos, but this was just an unpleasant flight. Basically spent the entire time with my whole body being thrown from side to side, and towards the end I actually started to get motion sick, which is the first time I've ever had that happen on a plane. So overall, a fun and memorable experience. The approach into Tenerife North Airport though was pretty stunning, so that made up for it. And here we are in an even windier Tenerife, where we had the pleasure of walking across about 200 metres of uncovered tarmac to reach a terminal. And good job it was only windy and not raining, is all I can say. And also a good job to this little plane for getting us here in one piece. Now that's pretty much it for this short flight. We managed to land during a break in the weather, and I was hopeful my next flight in a few hours with Air Europa to Madrid would fly without a hitch. But after this, the weather got much worse, and actually my Canary Fly flight was one of the last of the day to land successfully. Almost every other flight got diverted to Tenerife South Airport, leaving me stuck in Tenerife North, watching as flight after flight got cancelled and diverted, including my Air Europa flight, which diverted to Tenerife South on the other side of the island. And after a very disorganised mess at the airport, they eventually loaded everybody on a 1-hour coach trip to the island's other airport, where we were one of the last flights to leave, and eventually landed about 5 hours late in Madrid at 2 in the morning, causing me to miss my hotel booking and get 3 hours of sleep on the airport floor until my next flight at 6 AM the following day, making for one of my all-time worst flying experiences. But now I look back on it fondly, and it gives me the chance to make a hopefully interesting video, so stay tuned for that coming in the next few weeks. Back to this flight though, I won't bother write a proper review as Canary Fly really is just a basic inter-island airline, so I'll just give them a 4 out of 10 on my airline tier list, as there is really no service to speak of and the seats are cramped. That's it for this video though. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, leave a comment if you have any questions, thanks for watching and goodbye.